Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for joining us today. I'm Emil, and today I will be going over my 12-year review of my Sims G3 Guide waders. Little backstory, when I first started fishing, I ended up buying a cheaper, I think $80 pair of Redington hip waders. Good pair of waders, great beginner waders, but very soon after, I think I only had those for 1.5, 2 years, I decided to upgrade to these G3 waders. I like the aesthetics of the chest wader a little bit more. These were obviously going to be a little bit more durable, so they were going to last a lot longer than those Redington waders. And I kind of learned from that experience, and I've kind of shifted the way I've thought about buying gear in fly fishing. I'm more of a quality over quantity person when it comes to gear for the outdoors in general. So for either fishing, hunting, hiking, those types of things, I'd rather buy it once and be happy for that or happy with that purchase for many, many years rather than buy multiples. The great example is those Redington waders that I had. I had those for the last 15 years, literally haven't worn them at all. So I could have saved $80 if I had just jumped into this. Now, I can't remember exactly what my finances were back, 12, 15 years ago. But obviously, hindsight's 2020. I wish I would have just jumped into these instead. Now, the reason I'm saying this is, as some of you out there are like looking to get into fly fishing, there's obviously a lot of costs you can incur. There's a wide range in cost variability as well. Like, for example, you can go and buy those $80, that's that $80 pair of waders, or you can go to Sims, buy like $750 pairs of waders. So there's a really wide range. What's going to make you happy? What can you afford? Obviously, those two things go into it. For me, I kind of sat in that middle ground, and I went with these G3 guide waders, or G3 guides, and I have been extremely happy with those. And in a second here, I'll go through and kind of show kind of where the failure points were in these waders, as I've had them for 12 years. And, I mean, tons of miles, tons of rivers, tons of fish, tons of good times, really. Um, but when you're thinking about, fly fishing, you got to really think, is this something you're going to be into for many, many years, 5, 10 years? And that kind of gets allows you to set a precedence on how much you want to spend there. You also have to think what seasons you're going to be fishing. If you're only going to be fishing in the summer when you're wet wading, you may not need to buy a pair of waders. You may only need a pair of shorts and some tennis shoes. For me, I was fishing year round. At this time, I was living in New Mexico, so I could go and fish the San Juan River in January and be completely fine in these. Even now, as we live in Montana, a year like this year, I could have been fishing in these out the way into January with just a few pairs of long johns on. A couple of years ago, when it was like minus 35 degrees out here in Bozeman, I don't think you would have caught me, but caught me out in these waders. But it's all circumstantial. But I think this type of thickness, this type of material, I would have been completely comfortable out on the river, easily into December this year with the way this winter was. So, what have I liked most about these waders? Well, the durability, really. So 12 years in, I've only had to patch one hole in these, and if you've watched any of my videos, I always kind of call myself a pretty rough on my gear fly fisherman. The reason I buy gear is so that I can use it, and the reason I buy quality gear is so that I can, have a lot of confidence in that gear as I go out. So only one hole repair, which was actually about, I think, year 3 of owning the waders. Slid down a rock, pretty sharp rock, nicked a little bit of hole. I've patched that up since. I patched it up right when it happened, and I haven't had a problem with that hole since. So pretty awesome about that. Now, when you look at these waders, these specifically, you've got a tougher section on the bottom, and you've got a little bit more of a breathable section on the top, this Gore-Tex material up here. This is what really this is what really drew me to these waders. As I like to go and fish in more places where you have high gradient in the river. So you've got like these pools and slicks, and there's a very high steepness to the river. So kind of when you're hiking in, or when you're wading into the river, you're going to have these big steps. And so what that kind of requires for stability is you to really be rubbing against rocks and kind of locking your feet down in between rocks or boulders or whatever you can kind of eke into to get that stability when you're fishing. So places like the Rio Grande Gorge or the Rock Slide area on the Madison River, for example. that means you're going to be pretty rough and kind of the casualty there. So when you look at waders, generally what you're going to see is on the feet, you're going to have this neoprene material. This is called your gravel guard. And this sits above your boot. This part laces into your boot, and it kind of blocks gravel or debris getting back into your shoe and getting under your wading sock here and causing any discomfort. But when you're fishing in the kind of spots I described a lot, and hiking in and things like that, you start to tear through this neoprene. So I actually think you can replace this. I obviously haven't. I'll probably look at doing that this summer, as I don't really want to buy another pair of waders, as they are quite an investment. I'd love to see another 5 or so seasons out of these. But yeah, this is definitely one of the failure points in waders. As you can see, I've got some pretty good holes. But I've never really had a problem with a lot of gravel or dirt getting down into my shoes. So this obviously isn't a breaking point for me getting a new pair of shoes or repairing it even. Good thing is, the attachment, this metal piece here that attaches to your boot has withstood the trials of time and wear. And that's still, working on both sides of my waders here. And you can see again on my left foot here, these big holes that I've kind of generated over the season. So pretty happy with that. Again, 12 years, I think anybody would be really excited to get, imagine wearing a pair of jeans for 12 years. I go through a pair of jeans in like a year, so that's just the way it goes. Now, this has changed a lot over the years. Now, if you buy one of these waders, you actually have this kind of pouch is actually mounted on the front. I think you've got a little piece of fly attachment there. This same material here, which I can't remember the exact name of it, is actually on the front. Then you actually have a pouch that you can stick your hands into the sides and zip on the front. And that depends on which model of waders you're looking at as well. But it gives you a little bit more pocket space than what you have here. But the problem is now, this thing's in the front. So if you go chest high in the water, you're going to get a little bit wet water there. What was nice about this pouch is I could just flip it over so I could throw my phone in there and not have to worry about getting it wet. I think over the years, kind of thinking about my waders and what the number one lesson I have with my waders is, and that goes back to a trip I took to Yellowstone with my roommate Justin, my best buddy Justin, back in the day. Year 2009. We, fished in our waders every day for a week straight, and the inside of the waders got pretty soggy just from sweat, micro holes that you get in the seams, so you kind of get a little bit dampness in there. And I never dried my waders out between any of those days. I think we then had a week in Idaho Falls. We were hanging out at a conference, and we kind of let the waders sit for a little while, and they smelled terrible. So definitely with your waders, you're going to want to dry them out between uses. That is a serious thing, or else you're going to smell terrible. Take it from me, I experienced that first. It took like 2 years to get that smell out, but now they smell totally fine. So that's great, I guess. The other thing you want to be, cautious of when you're wearing waders is you don't want to fall down in the river. This last, I guess it was fall. Actually, it was it was almost a year ago, April a year ago. I was fishing the Gallatin River up in the canyon section here, and I, decided that the other side of the river looked like a great spot to go fish. I tried to cross that river. I slipped. I fell. And yeah, I took some water on. In the waders. Luckily, I was able to catch my feet pretty quickly, so I didn't get too waterlogged, and I was able to dry. Now, the big catch in this story is that it was actually snowing when this happened. So, had I been pretty far away from the car or something, that could have been a serious issue. So definitely when you're wading, be serious, be extra careful. You do not want to fall down in your waders. Like there's these horror stories of guys like on the San Juan River in New Mexico, like being swept under, and people only knew they were there because their fly rods be sticking out of the water as they were trying to get people to grab them. So definitely ups the serious game. But yeah, they're super nice. I've had a couple days where I've worn these all day on like a drift boat or on a raft in the sun. And, very breathable, very comfortable. I love wearing these. I'll take them out this weekend again and, put some miles on them. One thing that I think is worth noting, nobody really talks about this with waders, but I've done a lot of hiking in them. Typically, so one of my favorite places to go fish in New Mexico is Rio Grande Gorge. The hike in there is roughly a mile. You're dropping a lot of, I think like 800 feet elevation. So coming out, it's another mile, 800 feet elevation gain. And I've been really happy with the durability of these with hiking. Like, right, so you can imagine putting all that motion in your legs, right in the crotch of these. And, you know, for example, when you're wearing jeans, like that's the first place that goes out is that inner seam of my jeans, just from, you know, that stretching or rubbing you get. And these waders have, you know, they show no signs of wear. There is some on these seams right here, but that's more so of me like sliding down rocks or sitting on rocks rather than walking. So again, 12 years and that's the only blemish. That's not too bad. I think these have passed the test. So, you know, in hindsight, if you can go out, or not hindsight, but in review, I would say if you can go out and spend the money on like a nice pair of waders, like these G3 guides, I would definitely recommend it. There's also some other great brands out there, like Patagonia has some great waders. I'm partial to Sims, made in the USA, actually made here in Bozeman, down in Four Corners, which is awesome, fantastic. Yeah, I think it's well worth the money. It's going to extend your season. It's going to make your days out there more comfortable. Keeping you dry is definitely an important thing. And yeah, if they can last you 12 years, like that's fantastic. That's awesome. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please, you know, let me know in the comments section. And if you hated this video, let me know in the comments section too. As I've said in the past, you know, I think everybody in YouTube, you either make a funny comment or a mean comment, and I can't wait until I get either. Right now, I'm only getting bots that want to be my friends, so I have a lot of robot friends, which is it's pretty cool. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people on YouTube that have a lot of robot friends too. But you know, these bots, they're pretty nice. They just, you know, they're if you look at the comments in some of their videos, you'll see they don't mess around. They get right to the point. They want to be my friend. So it's really cool. So I have some robot friends now. Who knew? That's great. No princes from like, you know, Persia asking me to bail them out with $3,000 yet. So I'm still waiting for that. But yeah, let me know what you think of the review in the comment section. Let me know if you have any section or any other questions. Thanks, guys. Emil. Oh yeah, and 25 subscribers, and I buy editing software. You don't have to watch me reach here and turn off the session. Thanks, guys.